Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Q. This video is a first look at the new Tier 8 American reward and future premium bomber, the Douglas XB-42. Hello there, here is the XB-42 on the tarmac outside my hangar. I know, experienced players are groaning right now because I have the interface switched off and they can't see all sorts of information about this new plane. Don't worry, I'll give you a sight of what you want to see in a moment. Let me explain that this video was made before update 2.1.31.1 and it is not my usual full review, and that's because the update has introduced some changes to the original statistics of the plane and I haven't seen them yet. Therefore, the full review will follow at a later date when I've had a chance to look at the changes. And what I do know is that the hit points of the plane have been buffed, the glide bombing angle has been made more forgiving, not that it was too bad in the first place, though it did catch me out occasionally. The engine cooldown rate has been improved. The effective damage radius of the bombs has been tweaked, to quote the World of Warplanes team. That could make the plane rather nicer, even cheaper to play, particularly when stock. And the turrets have been given an improved chance of causing critical damage to enemy planes. Talking of the so-called turrets, here's one of them. Mounted in the trailing edge of the wing. And there's another on the other wing. Here's a spoiler. These guns are relatively short range and don't have a high damage output. Critically, the gun arcs, both up and down and side to side, are extremely constrained. Almost any manoeuvring whilst firing at an enemy will throw the guns outside of their arcs. Whilst improving the chance of causing critical damage to a pursuer helps, I think these guns are still going to be close to next to useless in manual mode. You have been warned. Fortunately, from here on in, the news gets better. Let's turn the interface on so you experienced players can see the equipment and consumable slots. Here you are. These are the slots as you would see them when you first acquire this aircraft. I'm not going to talk about these slots, nor my choices of with what to fill them, now. I'll save that for the full review video. And what I will say is that this is the same layout as the Tu-10 Russian bomber, and, less relevantly, the B-29C, rather than the RB-17. And I mention the RB-17 because I think most of you are going to look at and play the XB-42 in much the same way as you would the RB-17. But that plane has no equipment slot for the airframe and has 2 equipment slots for the engine. You can't simply replicate your RB-17 build on the XB-42. The other key piece of information is the bomb resupply time. Over here, you can see that it's 50 seconds. That's 10 seconds longer than the resupply time for the RB-17. If you use ultimate level fully calibrated strengthened hard points, you can bring that down to 36 seconds, less if you use experimental equipment. The bombs are dropped in 3 sticks of 4 bombs each, exactly like the RB-17, but do significantly more damage, more than 10% extra. However, the bombs originally had a very small effective explosion radius, exactly the same as the bombs on the B-29C, and experienced players will know that it's fairly frequent that parts of targets are left undestroyed by those. But, as you heard earlier, the World of Warplanes team seems to have done something about that. I'll talk about that in the later review video. Pause here for a moment if you wish. What's coming next is a pair of battles, one on a map suited to the XB-42, that'll be the first, and one less suited to it. I'll commentate on the battles and offer a few insights on the plane too. Just before we enter the battle, I'll talk a little bit more about the XB-42. You'll have realised that I'm comparing it most strongly to the RB-17, an aircraft it does resemble a lot. Now, there's a significant difference in the rear guns. These on the XB-42, as things stand, are very weak, whereas the RB-17s are very strong. I've gone through the differences in the bombs at some length, and there's an important point I'm going to make shortly, so pay attention. The rest of the statistics for the plane, survivability, altitude performance, speeds, broadly very similar to the RB-17. Not exactly the same, but broadly similar. Now, I reckon that the change to the hit points is possibly going to be the most significant change, unless the bombs are being given a large effective damage radius, that the World of Warplanes team will have made with patch 2.1.31.1. This plane had 100 hit points more than the RB-17. I guess it's going to end up with something like maybe 200 or 300 more hit points. That's going to help it survive attacks from enemy planes, which is just as well, because you're not going to shoot them down with the rear guns very often, I suspect. This map, Alpine Gambit, Snow and Ashes, is particularly suited to the XB-42 because it has 2 mining plants, and the XB-42 can do something that the RB-17 struggles to do. This bomber will reliably one-pass mining plants. Strangely enough, my first attack on the mining plant actually fails, but you'll see it later when I attack the second mining plant. That's something that's tricky to do with an RB-17. You can do it, but your success rate, if you're like me, is probably 25%, 30%. With the XB-42, I reckon you're probably north of 75% in being able to do that. So that gives this plane quite a big advantage on maps with mining plants. Okay, let's get into the battle. Let's run it. And this is a neutral mining plant, so I'm not going to bother trying to take out the 2 50-point targets, which aren't conveniently situated for a single bombing run, whereas the 80-point power plant, a 30-point target, and then in the far right corner a 50-point target are convenient for a bombing run. And had this gone correctly, I would have flipped this plant with this set of bombs. As it happens, I think I leave the last chimney in place. You have to bomb quite precisely. You mustn't start bombing too early, you mustn't start bombing too late, otherwise that will happen. I reckon that chimney's still up. It might be that there's a cooling tower up and I started bombing a little bit too late. However, I got the 30-point target and the 50-point target, and I swing around and the plant is captured anyway. Now, you might think about going to the military base here, and that wouldn't be a bad move, but it's likely to be hotly contested, and this plane is currently quite fragile and probably won't be anything more than averagely robust at any time. And also, it's a good idea to try and take this airfield to stop the enemy having a spawning point near your mining plant. So I'm going to run 3 bombs through here and hope that will be enough to tip the balance in favour of my team. And as I run in, unfortunately, targets start disappearing beneath me. And the other reason for doing this is because if you don't want to go to the military base because you think you might get shot down, very nearly got a ram there, you can then proceed from here to the enemy mining plant without going over the military base. Now, you do go near the spawn, which itself is a drawback, but this allows you to be a little bit surreptitious, and you may very well have built this aircraft to be surreptitious. I did. I'm using navigational radio equipment. Sadly, I haven't been able to significantly tip the balance on that airfield, but I can't spend any more time there. I've got more important things to do, and besides which there are almost no targets to bomb. So as you can see, just as I said, the military base is being hotly contested. Now this time it's an enemy mining plant. You need 180 points to flip this, so I need both 50-point targets and the power plant, and they're not ideally situated for a single bombing run. There's a 50-point target coming up, and I've pointed the aircraft briefly at it now over the gun emplacement, and there it is, 50-point target. Now I'm going to start bombing around about the middle of the chimneys, and then I'm going to hope I can get round, and this time I have destroyed the power plant, and that is usual. And I'm going to come around for the 50-point target. Fortunately, the fighters decided to concentrate on the ground attacker, and if I get this 50-point target, and I should do, the plant is flipped. There you go. And I promise you, certainly when the aircraft is specialised, I've got Demolition Expert on the plane, but I'm also using the improved explosives consumable, that's the gold consumable, to increase the blast radius. I flipped the plant, and I found that I could do that reliably with this plane, whereas with the the RB-17, I just can't. And now you begin to see something important. I couldn't use the rear guns. I just could not get the aircraft anywhere near focusing on the P-80A that was chasing me. And if I had, I would have had to virtually have stopped manoeuvring entirely, which again makes it easier for the pursuer to shoot you. As things stand, those rear guns are going to do almost no good for you. You won't be able to deter anything. They're too short range, they don't have enough DPS, and you can't manoeuvre. So here we are, odd situation. We've got both plants, but we haven't got the military base. So now is the time to head towards the military base, although it's quite possible that my team will take it before I get there. If they don't, well, provided they don't die like flies, I should be able to flip it. Fortunately, they've managed to reverse the progress, having seen the pie go up to a point where I might not have been able to flip it. 3 gun emplacements is 60 points. Now currently that looks like it's 40, so 2 gun emplacements will do. And if the central special object is there, we should have this. Don't need to bomb too accurately here. And there you go. And here we go again. And I've actually lost my gunner as well, and that's despite having a first aid kit. I've already lost the gunner twice. I haven't been able to replenish it. Your best hope here is to be able to run, but they've shot my engine out, and I've also lost my, already used my emergency repair bottle. This aircraft is pretty fragile in many respects. It is a question, probably, of getting to important sectors, doing your work, and then doing something like this, crashing the plane and getting a new one. And that's probably fortuitous timing, because if you were paying attention, you may have seen that the enemy has just managed to flip a plant. So given that I've got a 36-second reload on this plane because I'm using strengthened hard points, by the time I get there I should more or less be reloaded, and if I'm lucky I might be able to one past this plant this time. So this time I shouldn't bomb a 30-point target unless my team starts capturing the plant. Still less should I bomb a gun emplacement. So let's see what happens here. Half the reticle in. Now swing round. I left it a bit later this time. Take the 50-point target. And I can tell from the fact that there are announcements going through that I got the power plant this time. Now, I promise you these bombs would have levelled this next 50-point target whether or not it was damaged. It is damaged, so it's going to be even easier. And there you go. The plant is flipped. One pass, and again, I think most of you will probably have trouble doing that with an RB-17. And the enemy has now flipped the other plant. We've got on top here. We've got the military base. I'm not sure where it's firing. It won't be at the plant. I suspect it will be at the airfield. It doesn't really matter because I put my engine back in. Got a hell of a hit from the Hornet there. Fortunately it's being attacked by a member of my team and I've got away from it. And that is the reason why I build this plane for speed. I think your best chance of staying up in the air is not to engage with the rear gun, but to press the pedal to the metal, go as fast as you possibly can, and hope that you can disengage from a pursuing aircraft. Half the reticle in and start bombing. I probably swung away a little bit too quickly there. Might have gone away from the chimneys, but I did get the power plant. Got the next 50-point target, and this plant is at my mercy, except that the P-80A decides to come and spoil my fun. I'm out of the game, but it's a winning position. And it's a 4-7 battle, Winged Legend, not a bad return, and this type of map with 2 mining plants is particularly suited for the XB-42. This time the battle takes place on, again, Alpine Gambit, but it's a narrow pass. And I'm up against a B-29C that's specialised, and this map doesn't really suit the XB-42 because it's got lots of garrisons and one important strategic sector, which the B-29C could pay a lot of attention to. So it's just going to be a question of plugging away and keep on taking sectors and hope that we hold them for longer than the B-29C. One other thing to mention about the XB-42 that I haven't so far, no forward firing armament. So unlike the RB-17, which can do a little bit of work with a forward firing weapon, you can't do that with the XB-42. Okay, so what we're going to do is try and get into the centre before the B-29C. Should be able to do that, and with a bit of luck take out a couple of gun emplacements, but critically the special object. And At the very least, what I'm aiming to do is hold up the B-29C from taking this. Reticle over first target, now second. And I'll slightly drop a little bit to the right-hand side of this special object. We'll see if it goes through or not. Yes, it does. And we capture the military base, so that's a good start, but now I've got one of these ADAs still firing at me, which has taken off a bit of health, which I really could have done without losing. Now I'm watching the map, and I now have a fighter on me. I've lost my engine. I put that back in, and as you can see, I'm having to work really hard to get this tiny window for the rear gun on the Yak 3. And I have managed to discourage it, and frankly that's quite rare. Even a Yak 3 has a pretty decent chance of taking down this bomber. Now I know it's going to receive more hit points. I don't think that's going to make a tremendous amount of difference. Some, but it's not going to make it some monster like the B-29C, where you can hardly knock it down at all, and the Yak 3 wouldn't have gone anywhere near it, or would have been destroyed very quickly. Here we go, taking out the shed complexes, and then take out a gun emplacement. Hoping I'm going to survive before I get shot down by the AA. And now an ADA gets on my tail. I've got so little health left, it's an instant kill. Now you can see the B-29C has probably passed through the military base already, because it's pretty much 75% captured. So when we spawn, we'll probably be thinking about going there. Of course, the B-29C's got a long reload time, so it may just be possibly worth going to one of the garrisons. So I'm reloading, not boosting. There's the B-29C. He's nowhere near the military base. As it happens, it flips anyway, so that's where we're going to go. And it will be the same as before. Take a couple of gun emplacements and try and take the special object. Just circling to let the base unlock. And now we'll commit. Me-262 flying quickly, but apparently not at any enemy aircraft. Quite a difficult plane to control that, to be fair. I'm not brilliant in it. Same gun emplacement as before, and again, and now we actually go through the centre of the special object. Bombs were quite forgiving last time. I was a little bit worried I wasn't going to destroy the entirety of the special object, but now I can't do anything. I have to wait until I reload. Now, it is a 36-second reload. In the meantime, of course, I lose the gunner immediately to one of the J4Ms. I just need to get out of the sector and get them to turn away. That said, I'm now halfway to the reload. I hope I don't catch the attention of whatever that was. And now we'll go back in, try and take out 3 gun emplacements. With luck, those will be sufficient to take this military base. And as you can see, I'm now desperately short of health again. Military base has been taken. I didn't need to get all 3 targets. Wouldn't be a bad idea just to get out of the sector and dump the aircraft, or even at this stage with the base lock, dump the aircraft right now. And I think you're going to do this a lot in the XB-42. Take a sector, particularly an important sector, dump the aircraft, respawn, go and do something else important, dump the aircraft, respawn. It's probably not going to be that frequent you get Doolittle medals, not if you want to be effective. Now the team is actually doing pretty well. Briefly went 4-1 up on sectors there. We've got the central sector. I don't see that the B-29C is anywhere near it. So now we need to think about going to a garrison. Unfortunately, they're both the far-flung garrisons, so I've got to think about which one I want to go to. I don't really want to go anywhere near that heavy. So even though I would have preferred to go to the garrison that was still locked, because there would have been more chance of it being untouched by the time I got there, flying near to the heavy would have been near suicidal. An XB-58 is going to make mincemeat of these. So we changed tack, and we went off to the other garrison. And it may be that by the time I get there, there's not going to be very much to bomb because the military base is firing at it, but I'd rather still have the aircraft and nothing to bomb than lose the aircraft and have to respawn again. As it happens, both the shed complexes are up, so we can certainly bomb those. And the enemy's actually making quite a fist of defending this particular sector. I'm not sure why. Swing round, and unfortunately even this gun emplacement's not going to flip this. And we've now lost the military base, so that won't flip it either. Got a choice to make here. Do I go back and flip it? Or do I go for the military base? Well, I can't flip the military base in one go. And unfortunately I get my mind made up for me by a bot that's filling. Now I am shooting at it, but you can see I am not doing very much damage to it. I did manage to deter it, but now I'm in a pickle. That said, we've started capturing the military base, so it is worth taking a special object and hoping I can get two others as well. So if we go. Those. Hope I don't bomb the heavy. And I left part of the central object up, I believe. And at this point the XB-58 gets onto me. All I can do is damage him slightly before I die. And at the moment it's not looking good. We're 4-1 down, although in fairness two of their sectors look like they could fall quite quickly. If we get somebody over that far-flung garrison that I am pinging. I'm trying to get somebody to go there to just finish it off. Fortunately, my team has concentrated in the middle. They've managed to take the military base, so I can now go and drop some bombs on this garrison nearby. Probably fly off, and if the other garrison is still not captured, go off and finally secure it. And we have got a little bit of a lead. But we're 3-2 down. And I set up my bombing run to take out that shed complex, and the military base fired at it. So swing round, take this shed complex, take this gun emplacement. We know the military base is firing here, so provided we've got it, and provided my team doesn't die here, we should take this sector. And now it's time probably to go off and take the other one, which still hasn't been captured. So we haven't shot down any aircraft. We're on 530 capture points, so we've got an easy thunder here. Damage output, very nearly 95,000 damage. Now it's a good job I've come here, because we've managed to lose another sector, and it looks like we may lose the military base fairly soon thereafter. But I should be able to at least temporarily put us up 3-2 here. Over both shed complexes and over the gun emplacement, and that should give us what we need to flip it, and it does. And that takes me through to a grade 1 bomber, and the enemy is beginning to lose run out of aircraft. The B-29C is still floating around. But if I can get another sector, that should seal the deal, I think. So just by being in the air and flipping sectors consistently, and to be fair, my team has made a contribution as well. I couldn't have done this on my own, obviously. But we've managed to outcap and outplay the B-29C. Now, I was going to go to the garrison. The game is probably won anyway, unless by some catastrophe we suddenly lose all of our sectors, or two of them at least. I'm just going to try and take some damage off the military base. I won't be able to flip it, but I should be able to get another two another two gun emplacements and the central object, and just bump my score up a bit. Keeping an eye on the mini-map because I don't know where the heavy is, the XB-58. And it's our familiar friend, the two gun emplacements. Again. And then over the special object. It looks like I may have failed to take one of those gun emplacements out. But that's the final damage in the game. So, even on a map not suited to the XB-42, just like the RB-17, you can still be effective even if you have to do piecemeal work. There we go, Thunder, Winged Legend, Hero of the Sky. I've come to the end of my first look at the XB-42, and in my estimation, it's a plane very similar to the RB-17, but with some distinctive differences. The configuration of the bombs is different enough to give it the advantage of being able to reliably one-pass mining plants, which is difficult in the RB-17, at least I find it difficult. But the defensive armament is much worse than that of the RB-17. In fact, I'd call it woeful as it currently stands. Any determined opponent with enough hit points is going to be able to shoot you down. So I think this plane is going to be Sir Bomb a lot and Sir Die a lot as things stand. Now, I'm just going to run through the changes again that the World of Warplanes team will have made with the update, which I haven't seen yet. They've increased the hit points. I don't know by how much, but that is welcome. They've improved the glide bombing angle. You saw I had no difficulties with the glide bombing in those previous two games, but I do occasionally, so that's welcome as well. They're going to improve the cooldown rate of the engines. That's also welcome. Towards the end of sorties, I tend to find myself looking for more boosts than I've actually got, so anything that gets the engines cooled down quicker is going to help. They're going to tweak the effective blast radius of the bombs. I thought the bombs with, admittedly, the improved explosives, gold consumable and demolition expert on the pilot were reliable enough. This will improve it, so they'll become even more reliable. And finally, they're going to give the turrets more chance of causing criticals. And frankly, I don't think that's going to make a lot of difference, but we'll have to wait and see. All will be revealed in my next video on this plane, the full review, which will come as soon as I've had time to digest the changes that the World of Warplanes team has made. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and that if you did, you'll come and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out.